News into CBS Sports HQ, Dana White announced two big title fights for UFC 323 in December. The main event will feature Merab Dvalishvili defending his bantamweight title against Petr Yan. Merab previously beat Yan by unanimous decision in March of 2023. In the co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja will defend the flyweight title against Joshua Van. Pantoja retained his title with a submission win over Kai Kara France in June. On that same card, Van beat Brandon Royval by unanimous decision in a Fight of the Year candidate. So, UFC 323, mark your calendars, December 6th in Las Vegas. The main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan, that is for the bantamweight title. And in the flyweight co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. Also, Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbot. To talk more about the upcoming fight, we've got Shakiel Mahjouri here. Merab is defending his title for the fourth time this year, so if he wins this fight, what does it do for his legacy when you talk about some of the greatest fighters in UFC history?
It is insane that we already have a Merab Dvalishvili fight book, because he just defended the title against Corey Sandhagen like last week. But Merab is the machine for a reason. It was really important to him to get this fight booked because, like you teed me up for, should he beat Petr Yan, who he's beaten in the past, so the prospects of that look good, he will be the only UFC champion in history to notch 4 title defenses in 12 months or less. This timetable started January 18th, so I'll actually be getting it done in less than 11 months.
Wow, and you mentioned, too, that these two have faced off before. Merab previously beat Yan back in 2023. It was 30-27 on all 3 scorecards, but why might this fight go differently?
Well, Petr Yan says that he wasn't at 100% in the last one. A lot of fighters will say that. There's so many sort of injuries, illnesses, little things that they'll keep away from the limelight so that they can make it to fight night. And so sometimes when I hear these, I grit my teeth. But then you have Alex Pereira, the UFC champ, who said he was at 40% at UFC 320 and goes out there and starches Magomed Ankalaev in 80 seconds. So I'm going to give Petr Yan the same respect and the same sort of leniency that maybe I should have given Alex Pereira. He says he's in good shape for this one. The loss to Merab was a bit of a rough stretch. It was his first losing streak for Petr Yan. He was on a 3-fight losing streak during that period where he fought guys like Sean O'Malley, as well as Merab Dvalishvili. So, happy to report the former champ 3-fight win streak. He looks sharp. He's about as deserving as anyone in this division right now to fight Merab, but he's got a lot to overcome. In that last fight, Merab really just lived by that nickname, the Machine. 49 takedowns attempted over 15 minutes. He landed 11 of them. He outstruck Petr Yan 2-1, and it was just a textbook Merab mauling where even if he's not doing the most damage, even if the wrestling exchanges aren't dominant, he is just putting so much pressure and so much tenacity on you that it never lets you get a break. That hasn't left Merab's game. He hasn't sort of swayed away from doing that. So it's a little hard for me to see how differently this goes. But hey, Petr's got 25 minutes to figure it out.
You definitely want to be 100% when you are facing off against the Machine. If we go to the co-main, Joshua Van earned this shot by fighting twice in the span of 3 weeks back in June. It's been a meteoric rise up the rankings for the 24-year-old. Is this his time, or will the veteran champ prove to be too big a challenge at this stage?
I am so happy that they paired these fights together because I'm giving Merab so much credit for his activity, and here you have Joshua Van, who's just been blowing people away with his ability to get in there. You mentioned 2 fights in 3 weeks. This will be his 5th actually, because this takes place December 6th. He had a fight on December 7th. This will be his 5th fight in 364 days, and for the uninitiated, you can normally expect fighters to compete in the UFC, I'd say on an average of 2, maybe 3 times a year. So the fact that Joshua Van is putting so much output, he deserves this opportunity. It's exciting. It feels sort of like a lightning in the bottle moment that fans can jump on. Look, Pantoja, proven champion. He has a lot of ground to cover to match what Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson, a Mount Rushmore fighter, has done. I don't even know if there's enough time in his career to bridge that gap, but by my estimation at this point, Alexandre Pantoja has a very strong case for being the second best flyweight champion of all time. He has this ridiculous durability, which will serve him well against a guy like Joshua Van, who's a technical striker with knockout power. He has this tenacious wrestling game, great submission base. I think Pantoja is going to give Van so much pressure that he hasn't experienced, but that fight of the year candidate between him and Brandon Royval shows you that this is a guy who fears nothing. He can hurt you, and he's ready for this opportunity. This has such a chance. If it doesn't turn into too much of a grapple fest between Pantoja's tenacity, his chin, and Van's viciousness, who knows? Maybe Van's looking at a second fight of the year candidate this year.
Well, how about that? Shaq, thank you so much for reacting to this breaking news for us. Another reminder of UFC 323, December 6th in Las Vegas. You've got the main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. The co-main, Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. And Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbot. And do not forget, UFC is coming to Paramount Plus. We are so excited. Get ready to watch January 2026.